what we're looking at. Obviously, this Tula Bakelite is not what came with it. The factory magazine that came with this is this, which is your non-steel lip reinforced, people call them range mags. I found it makes a good stand for when I'm taking selfies for these videos. Anyway, just taking a little bit of a closer look, you'll see this mechanism here, which is the underfolder. This is solid piece of steel. It's riveted. This thing is put together like a tank. It's not like that tubular stuff that you'll see on a lot of underfolders, which always has been kind of a concern for me. Really like this trigger so far. I have not shot this, but it seems to have a nice smooth break. More on that after we do shoot it. These handles that the PAPs come in with, I don't like the look of them. Actually, ergonomically, they're okay, but this is probably one of the few parts that I'll replace on here. Going forward and looking at the underfolder itself, you see it comes up and it's got this nickel-plated bolt, which is pretty common for these guns. All Zastavas go that route. You've got these handguards come and they're not stained in any way, shape, or form. This is, and it's very, what I consider very delicate kind of wood. I think it needs some sanding, some sealing, or something. But this stuff is nothing fancy there, and maybe that's the way it needs to be. As always, with these guns coming out of Zastava, the front gas block is built like a tank. The front sight post is built like a tank. It seems like everybody else takes the approach of let's just throw together whatever, as long as it stays on, we can use it for a front sight. When it comes to quality, you don't see that so much here. It comes with a threaded slant brake, and this is standard threading there, so it's nice. So again, why would I be interested in a rifle like this? I was considering and looking very seriously at either the M92 PAP, which has a 10, I believe a 10.5 inch barrel. I was also looking, you can still get Romanian Dracos, and my friend who likes to come by my videos. Hi, Chloe. Say hi to everybody. Yeah, she's usually not shy. Anyway, those are your best two options that are out there. Here I can give you a better view with the underfolding stock extended. I mentioned to you that this part is extremely tight, and it needs to be flattened out so that it can get around the magazine and lay flat against this. So it just basically literally takes stepping on this part, using the ground, and then just getting it started like that. And like I said, I'm sure over time it loosens up. I think this is a really good looking rifle. I have some, I think, as I mentioned, I want to change out this grip, but outside of that, I think I do. Outside of that, I'm going to just go ahead and use this wood until I don't like it anymore. I don't think I want to put a lot of time staining and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it will take a neater picture, but I've also had a lot of times where that stuff, when your rifle heats up, a lot of times it isn't going to do as good as what just came out of the factory. And that's how they ship these out of the factory in their military full auto or select fire variants. These come right out of the factory with handguards just like this that are not finished in any way, shape, or form. I detect a little bit of linseed oil or something. I'm not sure, but that's about it. As you can see, it's got a safety with the notch cut in it. This shows you that you can hold the bolt back open, which is nice. A lot of ranges that you go to are looking for that kind of thing. Okay, but just in terms of cycling the bolt, very nice and loose. I have gone in and actually I have cleaned this, ran the bore snake through it, and cleaned out any residue, a few metal filings I found, and gave it a nice lube up. Taking a look inside now, the first thing that impressed me was this beefy rear trunnion, and I like seeing that. I think it's put in there along with what was needed to accommodate the underfolder mechanism, which is so doggone sturdy. So I think you've got an overbuilt back end on this. I think if there's a weak point, it's always been right here. If you look at the button you push to release the dust cover, which is a Zastava only thing, look at how little metal in the receiver there is above that. In other words, if there's a vulnerable point on this, you can tell just by eyeballing it, it's that right there. It looks like since I had the version I had prior, this version, this particular, you've got material going up, it looks like about 1 millimeter or 2 above the receiver. Looks like to reinforce that, which makes a lot of sense, and it's a good idea. You can see it's got the shepherd's hook, which is pretty standard. It's got the G2 trigger. Like I said, nothing to say about that until there is. Looking inside, bullet guide looks okay. The barrel looks okay. It's not a chrome barrel. It's a very heavy chrome or cold hammer forged barrel, but it is not a chrome barrel. I am not going to take the gas tube off. You see that rubber mallet in the background? That's what I had to do to beat this thing off. This mechanism here is on there tighter than a tick, as my grandma used to say. Also tighter than a tick is the underfolder mechanism itself. Basically to manipulate the stock portion that goes against your shoulder, it needs to rotate to be about 90 degrees instead of 180 degrees. You basically, Ivan needs to step on with boot and move rifle, using ground as lever. That's how you do it. I think they ship these things overly tight because at some point they're going to loosen up, and once they get overly loose, they're never going to tighten up again. Looking at continuing on, we've got a nice nickel-plated bolt. They used to say these things were chrome. They're not. It's very nicely machined, and it came in very good condition. You can see it's just a smooth dust rail or dust cover. Your spring is your spring. Now, I've heard some people say that these things need to have different springs installed. I'm not going to decide on anything until I've shot it quite a bit. You notice here too, looking at the bottom, this is something that's a little bit different for Zastava, is this whole idea of the cutout on the bottom, whereas usually you've got a dimple. If it's a washer, typically it's a dimple that's about the width of a single stack. But all the other ones that you see out there, Arsenals, all the ones that have been opened up, they've got a wider dimple for a double stack. Well, this is the approach Zastava takes. There's no dimple here at all. It's a very flat receiver on the bottom. Also, you can see the attention to detail that's been paid to things such as the rivets on the trigger guard. If I can quote my friend from AKOU, I would like to say, rivets look nice, trunnion look nice, all is good, guys. Enough with the bullshit talk. Just for purposes of comparison, I've laid out this NPAP underfolder, the DF, and with its configuration, including the slant brake, I've laid it out next to, this is an SBR rifle, 8.5-inch barrel. Okay, this has 16. More is good, says the Tavor folks. Okay, and you can see this is as far as this stock is going to collapse. Now, if I want to get into these, what I consider to be ridiculous attachments that enable this to be a side folder, go for it. I think that's a cool neato factor more than anything else. I don't understand it, but hey, add weight to your gun. Anyway, you can see we're talking basically the same length. Now I've got a flash compensator, a bit of a linear compensator attached to this. So yeah, I could make that a little bit shorter, but basically you're talking about the same overall profile for these two guns with 30 round magazines. And this one, you do not have to SBR. You do not have to SBR. And that had a whole lot to do with me deciding not to get a pistol and turn it into a rifle. Because that's exactly what my thought process was, is wow, wouldn't the M92 PAP look great as an SBR? Wouldn't, even more preferably, you'd love to have the Draco pistol, Romanian made, not US. Wouldn't that look great as an SBR? And I start thinking about it. Okay, it probably doesn't have the proper trunnions in these guns to attach the side folding mechanism, so now you're just screwing stuff onto steel plates on the back in many cases and drilling into trunnions and other things that came from the factory. It's not going to be as good as going out and buying something that's purpose built. But besides that, you have the SBR stamp, and I live real close to the Wisconsin state line. I live somewhat close to a couple other state lines, so the whole fact of the matter here is I can't go anywhere with this, not without giving notice. This has to stay in my state unless I want to plan ahead. This can go under the back seat of my car right now, properly stored, you know, not chambered, not with the magazine inserted. And guess what? I don't have any NFA laws. I don't have $200. So at the end of the day, it came down to, if you look at what my purpose of use is, which is I want a compact AKM. Wow, I'm really taking a long time to say this. You guys see this rifle here? A compact one of these bastards, an AK-47, that has going to be able to give me some storage opportunities, and here's the big thing, give you the ability to fire it from the stock folded position. When I talk about firing from the stock folded position, as you can see, the underfolder equally distributes itself on either side, so the gun is pretty flat. Okay, basically at this point it's going to behave like a pistol. The side folder, which I think is really cool, and I mean this is like my favorite gun period here, this Arsenal one SLR 104, but as you can see, it's got some extra thickness. Yes, you can fire it from this configuration, but it's not ideal over the long term. If you're needing to, you're going to want to unfold that stock because it's slap right up there against an increasing the thickness, whereby this one does not. So looking at that from that standpoint, I thought, well, maybe pistol. We all know with pistols what they're about. At some point, that pistol is going to be nothing more than a pain in the ass that you want to turn into an SBR. And if you do, you wait, you pay money, and what kind of value are you getting? Oh, wow, I just took 3 inches off an AK barrel. So that's kind of what we're looking at. The other thing, just as a side note, like I said, I love this SLR 104 FR. That is the world's longest muzzle device, I swear to God. And sometimes it just drives me nuts how long it is. Well, it's long, and that's life. Beautiful gun though, and I suppose I could always replace that muzzle device. And had some bad experiences with Century. Well, think about it, on the surface of things, this particular fucking dog. As always, thank you for watching. We'll give you some range reports and other updates about how this firearm is doing as we go along. Thanks again, and as always, appreciate your support and your comments.